The starship Eternal Punishment drifted like a massive obsidian blade against the swirling crimson backdrop of the nebula terminus. Its hull bore the scars of 1,000 conquests, each carbon-scored panel a testament to the Zorn Imperium's uncontested supremacy across 12 known star systems. Captain Vexnar adjusted the bioneural interface connecting his consciousness to the ship's primary sensor grid. 6 eyes, each a complex mosaic of infrared and ultraviolet perception, scanned the surrounding space with predatory intensity. Something felt different about this sector. The quantum resonance seemed off. Junior Tactical Officer Krellix burst into laughter, his amphibious skin rippling with iridescent waves of amusement. "Commander, you're not going to believe this," he chirped, mandibles clicking with excitement. "We've got an incoming vessel that's barely larger than our maintenance drones." The main holographic display flickered to life, revealing a small craft that looked woefully inadequate against the Eternal Punishment's massive frame. Its design defied conventional understanding. No recognizable propulsion systems, no standard energy signatures, nothing that matched any known spacecraft classification in the Zorn's extensive database. "Magnify," Vexnar commanded, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the bridge's organic circuitry. The image zoomed in. The human vessel appeared almost fragile, its hull a curious blend of materials that seemed to shimmer and shift subtly, as if not entirely committed to existing in a single state of matter. No weapon ports, no visible defensive systems, just a sleek, almost elegant design that looked more like an artistic concept than a functional spacecraft. Senior Navigator Zaxiel leaned forward, tendrils of neural link cables writhing around his cranial node. "Trajectory is impossible," he muttered. "Those vector calculations would tear apart any known vessel. The gravitational stress alone should." "Impossible is a word for the unimaginative," Vexnar interrupted, his 6 eyes narrowing to razor-thin slits. The ship's quantum sensors began registering anomalies. Microfluctuations in spacetime surrounding the incoming vessel suggested technologies far beyond anything in the Zorn's comprehensive scientific archives. It moved not like a spacecraft, but like a thought given physical form, slipping between predictable trajectories with a fluidity that defied mathematical modeling. Krellix's initial mockery died in his throat. The bridge fell silent, tension crackling like static electricity. "Battle readiness at maximum," Vexnar ordered, though something in his gut told him traditional battle preparations would be about as useful as throwing pebbles at a hurricane. The small human vessel continued its approach. No communication, no standard hailing frequencies, just a silent, almost casual progression that suggested complete and total confidence. On the Eternal Punishment's massive view screen, the distant speck of the human ship grew slowly larger. Each moment of approach felt like a heartbeat suspended in eternity, the universe holding its breath in anticipation of what would come next. Whatever was approaching, it was clear this was no ordinary encounter. The energy lance materialized instantaneously, a concentrated beam of destructive potential that could slice through planetary crusts as easily as a scalpel through soft tissue. Generations of Zorn warriors had witnessed this weapon reduce entire civilizations to atomic dust in milliseconds. Captain Vexnar's neural interface pulsed with anticipation. The targeting systems locked onto the human vessel with predatory precision. A standard opening move, a demonstration of overwhelming force that had ended countless potential threats before they could even comprehend the danger. "Firing primary quantum disruptor," announced Gravnak, the weapons specialist, his voice clinical and detached. The beam erupted from the Eternal Punishment's main cannon, a lance of pure, concentrated energy that represented the pinnacle of Zorn military technology. It moved faster than light, carrying enough destructive potential to vaporize entire space stations. The weapon was calibrated to break down molecular bonds, turning solid matter into a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated plasma. But something extraordinary happened. The energy didn't destroy the human vessel. It didn't even scratch its surface. Instead, the massive destructive beam seemed to dissolve, not deflect. not absorb. Dissolve. The tactical display flickered with impossible readings. Sensors went wild, recalibrating repeatedly, as if unable to process what they were witnessing. The devastating energy that should have obliterated the human craft simply disappeared, redistributed across the vessel's hull in a pattern that defied every known law of physics. Quantum integrity at 100%, Zaxel reported, his voice cracking with disbelief. Energy redistribution pattern is. It's not possible. Krelix slammed his hand against the sensor panel, assuming the system was malfunctioning. But the readings remained consistent. The human vessel hadn't just survived, it had transformed the most destructive weapon in the Zorn arsenal into something harmless. On the bridge, the atmosphere changed. Mockery transformed into a cold, creeping fear. Vexnar's 6 eyes moved independently, each scanning different sensor readouts. Something about the human vessel's response suggested more than just advanced technology. This was something else entirely. A level of scientific understanding so profound it bordered on the metaphysical. Secondary targeting sequence, he commanded, his voice a low growl. A series of smaller, more precise energy projections erupted from the eternal punishment. Quantum-entangled particle beams designed to destabilize molecular structures at their most fundamental level. Each beam could reduce matter to its component quarks, stripping away atomic bonds with surgical precision. The human vessel continued its approach. The energy beams disappeared, not deflected, not absorbed, simply gone. It was as if the laws of physics themselves had become flexible, bending around the small human craft like water around a stone. The vessel didn't dodge. It didn't defend. It simply existed in a state that made traditional concepts of attack and defense completely irrelevant. A single line of text appeared on every communication channel. Defensive PROTOCOLS ENJGGT. Hostile actions COMT or PRODUCTIV. The message was clinical, precise, utterly devoid of emotion, and infinitely more terrifying for its cold rationality. Vexnar felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of military service. Genuine, visceral fear. The bridge of the eternal punishment transformed into a scene of controlled chaos. Holographic displays danced with impossible trajectories, each representing the human vessel's movement through space. "This is mathematically impossible," Zaxel muttered, his neural tendrils writhing with frustration. The ship's advanced prediction algorithms worked overtime, attempting to calculate the human craft's next move. Each time they approached a solution, the vessel would shift, not dramatically, but with a subtle precision that rendered all calculations instantly obsolete. Missile batteries across the eternal punishment's massive hull began to track their target. Quantum-locked targeting systems that had never failed before now found themselves dancing to an incomprehensible rhythm. The human vessel didn't just dodge. It seemed to exist in multiple potential locations simultaneously, rendering the very concept of targeting meaningless. Krelix watched in growing horror as weapon after weapon proved utterly ineffective. Plasma cannons fired their superheated streams, only to find their targets had somehow moved microseconds before the projectiles could make contact. Quantum-entangled tracking systems collapsed, their predictive algorithms falling apart like wet paper. "It's reading our systems," Captain Vexnar said quietly, a statement that sent a chill through the entire bridge crew. The human vessel moved with a grace that suggested something beyond mere technological superiority. Each movement was a mathematical symphony, a perfect blend of predictive analysis and instantaneous adaptation. It wasn't fighting. It was solving a complex problem in real time, with the eternal punishment serving as nothing more than an elaborate mathematical equation to be resolved. Proximity alarms began to sound, not because the human vessel was threatening approach, but because it was systematically neutralizing every offensive and defensive capability of the massive Zorn warship. A new message appeared across all communication channels. Defensive PROTOCOLS ENJGGT. Hostile actions CONT or PRODUCTIV. The words were clinical, precise, Each letter seemed to carry the weight of a comprehensive analysis that reduced the entire conflict to a simple, solvable problem. Gravenok, the weapons specialist, slammed his fist against the control panel. "Nothing works," he shouted, his amphibious skin shifting through colors that betrayed his rising panic. "Our most advanced targeting systems, they're being rewritten faster than we can activate them." The human vessel continued its approach, each movement a testament to a level of technological understanding that made the Zorn's most advanced systems look like primitive toys. Zaxil's neural interfaces began to output a series of impossible calculations. The vessel wasn't just avoiding weapons, it was predicting potential attack vectors before they were even conceived. Each movement was a solution to a problem that hadn't yet been formulated, existing in a state of perpetual mathematical resolution. "They're not fighting," Vexnar said, his 6 eyes tracking the vessel's impossible trajectory. "They're solving." The difference was profound. A traditional opponent would engage, would strike, would attempt to overcome through force. This human vessel was treating the entire encounter as a complex mathematical problem to be resolved with the minimum possible disruption. And it was winning, effortlessly. The bridge fell silent, the only sound the subtle hum of systems being systematically neutralized by an intelligence that seemed to exist beyond traditional concepts of technology and warfare. The human vessel continued its approach, each moment a reminder that some battles are won long before the first shot is fired. Captain Vexnar watched the holographic displays with a growing sense of existential dread. The human vessel was no longer just avoiding their weapons. It was systematically dissecting the eternal punishment's entire technological ecosystem. Quantum field manipulations rippled across the ship's systems. Each defensive protocol, each carefully designed technological safeguard seemed to unravel like a delicate fabric caught in a complex mathematical algorithm. The vessel didn't destroy. It understood. "Diagnostic systems compromised," Zaxil reported, his neural tendrils trembling. "It's not just accessing our technology. It's comprehending it." The bridge crew watched in horrified fascination as their most advanced systems were laid bare. Complex quantum encryption codes that had taken generations to develop were being parsed, understood, and catalogued with terrifying efficiency. It was as if the human vessel possessed an intelligence that could read the very language of technological complexity. Gravenok's weapon systems began to respond to commands that hadn't been issued. Defensive shields flickered with impossible configurations, not breaking, but reshaping themselves into configurations that suggested a level of adaptive intelligence far beyond anything the Zorn had ever conceived. "We're being studied," Vexnar murmured, his 6 eyes tracking multiple simultaneous analyses. "Not attacked. Studied." The difference was profound. Most encounters in the galaxy followed a simple paradigm. Weapons were fired. Defenses were tested. One side emerged victorious. But this human vessel was treating the eternal punishment like an intricate puzzle to be solved, a complex system to be understood rather than destroyed. Technological layers peeled away like the pages of an open book. Navigation protocols revealed themselves, not through force, but through a kind of intellectual osmosis that suggested the human vessel was literally reading the ship's technological DNA. Krellix watched in mounting terror as their most classified systems became transparent. Military strategies that had been kept secret for generations were being not just revealed, but contextualized. The human vessel didn't just see the information. It understood the complex web of motivations, historical contexts, and strategic considerations that had shaped those strategies. "It's learning faster than we can comprehend," Zaxnar whispered. Each system the human vessel touched became something more than it was before. Defensive protocols were subtly optimized. Navigation algorithms were refined. It was as if the vessel was conducting a comprehensive system upgrade, transforming the eternal punishment from the inside out. The ship's artificial intelligence, a marvel of Zorn technological achievement, began to interface with the human vessel in ways that defied logical explanation. Complex computational problems that would have taken standard processing units millennia to solve were being resolved in milliseconds. "We're being improved," Vexnar realized, a statement that sent a chill through the entire bridge crew. This was not conquest. This was not destruction. This was a form of technological communion that the Zorn had never considered possible. The human vessel was treating their most advanced warship as a complex problem to be solved, a system to be understood and optimized. And it was winning, effortlessly. The bridge fell silent, each crew member understanding that they were witnessing something beyond traditional concepts of technological encounter. The human vessel continued its approach, each moment a reminder that true power lies not in destruction, but in understanding. The first data packets arrived like whispers, almost imperceptible against the massive computational infrastructure of the eternal punishment. Then they became a flood. Krellix watched in mounting horror as information began to cascade across every display. It wasn't an attack in any traditional sense. No system was being damaged. Instead, the human vessel was conducting a comprehensive diagnostic that laid bare every secret, every hidden protocol of the Zorn warship. "Quantum encryption breached," Zaxil reported, his voice a mixture of professional detachment and profound disbelief. "They're accessing everything." Military strategies dating back generations unfolded like delicate origami. Classified communication logs, resource allocation algorithms, generational conflict records, personal communications of every crew member. Nothing remained hidden. Captain Vexnar felt a unique form of vulnerability he had never experienced before. The human vessel wasn't stealing information. It was reading, understanding, and contextualizing an entire civilization's technological and cultural ecosystem. Each data packet carried more than just raw information. They came with subtle annotations, optimization suggestions, potential conflict resolution strategies, efficiency improvements that seemed to emerge from a fundamental understanding of Zorn systems that went beyond mere technological analysis. The ship's artificial intelligence began to interface with the incoming data in ways that defied conventional computational logic. Complex problems that would have taken standard processing units millennia to solve were being resolved in milliseconds. "They're not just accessing our systems," Vexnar murmured. "They're understanding them." Gravnok's weapon systems began to respond to commands that hadn't been issued. Defensive shields flickered with impossible configurations, not breaking, but reshaping themselves into more efficient patterns. It was as if the entire ship was being subtly redesigned by an intelligence that could see potential improvements invisible to Zorn engineers. The crew watched in a mixture of terror and fascination as their most secure systems became transparent. Military strategies that had been closely guarded secrets for generations were being not just revealed, but contextualized with a level of nuance that suggested a profound understanding of Zorn culture, history, and motivations. Psychological profiles of key military leaders emerge. Potential diplomatic solutions to long-standing conflicts appeared as annotations in the data stream. Resource allocation inefficiencies were highlighted with precise mathematical calculations that suggested alternative approaches. "It's a diagnostic," Zaxil whispered, "but not of our technology, of our entire civilization." The information weapon was unlike anything the Zorn had ever encountered. No system was being damaged. No data was being stolen. Instead, the human vessel was conducting a comprehensive analysis that revealed the intricate, interconnected nature of Zorn society with terrifying clarity. Personal communications were restored instantly after being analyzed, each message subtly refined. Inefficient communication protocols were optimized. Potential misunderstandings were highlighted with gentle, almost compassionate annotations. Krellix felt a chill run down his spine. This was more than technological superiority. This was a form of intellectual communion that transformed the very concept of conflict. Just as quickly as it began, the data flood stopped. The eternal punishments systems hummed with a newfound efficiency, annotated and optimized in ways that suggested a level of understanding far beyond traditional technological encounter. And through it all, The human vessel continued its approach, silent, precise, utterly confident. The message was clear. Some battles are won through understanding, not destruction. A new communication channel opened, not with the traditional burst of electronic noise, but with a precision that suggested each byte of data had been carefully considered. The vessel identified itself simply as Diplomatic Intervention Unit Alpha 1. Captain Vexnar felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries of military service: genuine uncertainty. The communication that followed was unlike any first contact scenario in Zorn historical records. It began with a comprehensive analysis of the Zorn Imperium's current trajectory. Not a threat, not a declaration of war, simply a clinical assessment of their civilization's future, mapped out with mathematical precision that bordered on the prophetic. The report detailed systemic failures that would lead to complete societal collapse within 3 generations. Resource allocation inefficiencies, technological stagnation, internal political fragmentation. Each point was accompanied by detailed projections, alternative pathways, and potential solutions. Zaxil's neural interfaces struggled to process the depth of information. This wasn't propaganda. This wasn't an intelligence report. This was a comprehensive systems analysis of an entire civilization, presented with a level of nuance and understanding that suggested something far beyond traditional diplomatic communication. "They're predicting our future," Krelix whispered, his amphibious skin shifting through a palette of colors that betrayed his mounting anxiety. The report broke down the Zorn Imperium's challenges with surgical precision. Long-standing resource conflicts were revealed to be fundamentally solvable through innovative redistribution strategies. Technological bottlenecks were highlighted with potential solution pathways that seemed to emerge from a fundamental understanding of Zorn's scientific infrastructure. Most surprisingly, the report wasn't a condemnation. It was an invitation. Each systemic challenge was presented with multiple potential resolution strategies. Some were technological, some were diplomatic, some were so subtle that they seemed to emerge from a profound understanding of Zorn cultural dynamics that went far beyond traditional intelligence gathering. Gravnak found himself reviewing mathematical projections that suggested alternative governance models, resource allocation algorithms that could potentially eliminate generations of conflict, technological development pathways that could transform the entire Zorn civilization. The human vessel wasn't offering a solution. It was presenting a comprehensive roadmap of potential futures. "They're giving us choices," Vexnar realized, his 6 eyes tracking the intricate data streams. The communication carried an underlying message that transcended words. This was not about conquest. This was not about submission. This was about potential, about possibility, about a civilization's capacity to grow, to change, to evolve. Potential diplomatic resolutions to generational tensions emerged with a level of nuance that suggested a deep, almost empathetic understanding of Zorn cultural complexities. Technological development pathways were presented not as directives, but as invitations to explore new potential. The crew of the Eternal Punishment watched in stunned silence as their entire understanding of first contact was systematically dismantled and reconstructed. This was not a warship. This was not an invasion force. This was an opportunity. And the human vessel continued its approach, each moment a reminder that true power lies not in destruction, but in understanding. Captain Vexnar understood something profound in that moment. This was no mere encounter. This was a comprehensive systems analysis of an entire civilization, conducted with a sophistication that rendered the Zorn's most advanced technologies obsolete. The human vessel began to demonstrate capabilities that transcended traditional concepts of diplomacy, technology, and interaction. Each communication, each subtle system adjustment revealed layers of understanding that went far beyond simple information exchange. Zaxil's neural interfaces worked overtime, trying to process the depth of the interaction. The humans weren't just sharing information. They were creating a dynamic, living dialogue that adapted in real time to the Zorn's response patterns. Cultural databases that had been carefully curated for generations suddenly felt incomplete. The human vessel showed an understanding of Zorn societal dynamics that suggested capabilities far beyond traditional intelligence gathering. Generational conflicts were revealed to be fundamentally solvable, with solutions that emerged from a profound empathy that defied conventional diplomatic approaches. "They're reading between the lines of our entire civilization," Krelix muttered, his amphibious skin shifting through complex color patterns that betrayed his mounting internal conflict. The diplomatic intervention went beyond simple communication. It was a holistic approach to problem-solving that transformed potential conflict into an opportunity for mutual growth. Each proposed solution carried with it a nuanced understanding of the Zorn's deepest cultural motivations, technological challenges, and systemic limitations. Gravnak found himself reviewing proposed technological development pathways that seemed to emerge from a fundamental understanding of Zorn's scientific infrastructure. These weren't external suggestions, they were collaborative invitations to explore new potential. The human vessel demonstrated an approach to interaction that was entirely foreign to Zorn experience. It wasn't about winning or losing. It wasn't about submission or conquest. It was about potential, about possibility, about collaborative problem-solving on a civilizational scale. Complex resource allocation challenges that had sparked generational conflicts were presented with solution strategies that considered not just immediate economic impacts, but long-term cultural and technological implications. Each proposed resolution carried with it a level of nuance that suggested a deep, almost intuitive understanding of the intricate web of Zorn societal dynamics. "They're not negotiating," Vexnar realized. "They're collaborating." The difference was profound. Traditional diplomatic encounters were about positioning, about gaining advantage. This was something else entirely. The human vessel was treating the entire interaction as a complex, interconnected system to be understood and optimized. Technological development suggestions were presented not as directives, but as collaborative explorations. Cultural insights were shared with a level of empathy that suggested a fundamental respect for the Zorn's unique evolutionary path. The crew of the Eternal Punishment watched as their understanding of first contact was systematically dismantled and reconstructed. This wasn't an invasion. This wasn't a threat. This was an invitation to a fundamentally different way of existing. Each moment of the interaction revealed another layer of the humans' unique approach. They weren't trying to change the Zorn. They were offering a lens through which the Zorn could understand themselves more deeply. The human vessel continued its approach, a silent testament to a philosophy of interaction that transformed conflict into an opportunity for mutual understanding and growth. And in that moment, everything changed. The Eternal Punishment returned to Zorn space transformed. It was not a vessel of defeat, but a messenger of a profound galactic revelation. Captain Vexnar stood on the bridge, his 6 eyes reflecting a complexity of emotion that defied traditional Zorn understanding. The encounter had been more than a first contact scenario. It had been a fundamental reimagining of what interaction could mean. Zaxil compiled the comprehensive report, each data point a testament to the human vessel's extraordinary approach. The civilization they had encountered was not a military power in any traditional sense. They were problem solvers, collaborative architects of potential. The first ripples of change spread quickly through the Zorn Imperium. The detailed analysis provided by the human vessel began to transform fundamental aspects of their society. Resource allocation models were redesigned. Technological development pathways were reimagined. Generational conflicts found unexpected resolutions. "They didn't conquer us," Krelix observed, his amphibious skin now a calm, reflective blue. "They showed us a better way of existing." The report was more than a diplomatic document. It was a comprehensive systems analysis that revealed the intricate potential of collaborative intelligence. Each proposed solution carried with it a level of nuance that suggested a fundamental understanding of the Zorn's unique evolutionary path. Other galactic civilizations began to take notice. The Zorn Imperium, a civilization known for its military might and isolationist policies, was changing. Technological innovations emerged at an unprecedented rate. Diplomatic approaches became more nuanced. The rigid hierarchical structures began to show remarkable flexibility. Gravnak found himself leading teams that approached problem-solving in entirely new ways. The human vessel had introduced a concept that went beyond traditional technological development. It was about potential, about possibility, about seeing challenges as opportunities for collaborative growth. The encounter challenged every fundamental assumption about first contact, about civilization, about the nature of interaction itself. Diplomatic channels across the galaxy began to shift. The story of the eternal punishment spread, not as a tale of military engagement, but as a profound lesson in collaborative intelligence. Other civilizations began to study the human approach, seeking to understand this radical new paradigm of interaction. We were not conquered. Vexnar would later record in the official report. We were invited to understand ourselves more deeply. The human vessel had done something extraordinary. It had transformed a potential conflict into an opportunity for mutual growth, not through force, not through submission, but through a profound understanding that true power lies in collaboration, in seeing the potential within complex systems. Technological innovations began to emerge that seemed to come from nowhere. Diplomatic solutions to long-standing conflicts appeared with surprising ease. The Zorn civilization began to view challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for collaborative exploration. Other species watched in fascination. The Zorn Imperium, once known for its militaristic isolation, was becoming something else entirely. A civilization that approached challenges with a newfound sense of collaborative potential. The message was clear. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as problem solvers, as collaborative architects of potential. And everything was about to change.